think we are live back again down under with Tomo's Tune-Ups.
G'day, how we going, mate?
What's up, man? How are you?
Pretty good. It's a bit of a stinker of a day today, being Sunday, so yeah, just trying to relax in the air conditioning.
Oh yeah, what's it? It's hot over there right now, huh?
Yeah, man, it's probably mid-20s at the moment, probably creep up to low to high 30s. See how we go, maybe 35, but you know, that'll get lucky.
I'm gonna act like I know what that means. What is this? I'm Googling 20 Celsius to Fahrenheit. 20? What is the temperature right now?
Yeah. At the moment, we're 23.
23. I'm exact.
Yeah.
Oh, that's only 73. Is it humid there?
Yeah, it is a little bit.
Gotcha. It's surprisingly cold here in Southern California. There's apparently a blizzard warning, and it's been snowing in a few spots, which is crazy. So everyone's freaking out. But sun's peeking out. It's still beautiful in SoCal.
That's good.
Yeah. So hey, I appreciate you being on here. We've been chit-chatting over Instagram. I started digging into your YouTube channel, your Instagram, all of that jazz. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but cool, man.
Yeah, sweet.
Let me know.
Let's
see.
Dramas.
How did you get into minis? What's the deal? Tell me your story. What's your life story? Start from wherever you want.
All right. So, a bit of a long-winded answer, I guess. So essentially, in it would have been about 2009. I met a guy. I was working at Domino's Pizza, and he was from the UK, and he came over to Australia for, I think it was like 12 months, and he ended up staying for like 18 months. And through my endeavors with him, he was talking to me about having a classic Mini, and I kind of thought, that'd be really cool. Maybe I could get one. So started looking around and not really realizing how expensive they were. Well, at that time, like, they weren't overly expensive. So I just thought, let's just go find one. Let's buy one. So found one down in Sydney. At this time, I was living on the Central Coast, which from where we bought it to where I lived, it was like a good 2.5 hours drive each way. So we're talking like 5-hour round trip.
Wow.
So it was me, him, his name is Tom, my dad, and my wife at the time, who's now my ex-wife. We all headed in the car, jumped down, drove to this place, and this guy's like, I wanted to keep this, I'll let my kids drive it, and I'm going to teach them to drive. I thought, okay, kids must be like 15, 16. Turns out they're like 7 and 8, so they were just destroying this thing, like absolutely destroying this car. And I was like, okay. He goes, I even gave it a wash. And it wasn't until I got home, I looked at it, I was like, what'd you fucking wash it with, mate? Fucking toilet water. Like, the thing was just, it was putrid.
It was like a Brillo
So we got this car. Yeah. I was like, all right, whatever. So we got home. The next day, like, let's go for a drive. Let's take this thing around the block. Anyway, my mate left his keys to his car in my ex's handbag, so we couldn't get his battery to start the car because, the battery was obviously dead. So we thought, hey, let's just strip it. Let's push out the back, and I just stripped it from there. But a couple of years prior, when I first became an apprentice back in 2005, I wanted to buy, that was like the era where they just finished the original Minis and started with like the R51s. So I used to work for Volkswagen, and across the road was BMW and Mini. So I went and took a Cooper S for a drive, and the supercharged thing. I thought, man, this is sick. This is what I want to buy. So we came back and he crunched the numbers and he's like, man, all right, it's like 35 grand. I'm like, I'm an apprentice. I don't have 35 grand. So it just got put on hold. And then, years later, I finally bought one. But then he's saying that it stuck as a shell for a good 8 to 9 years before I then married my now wife. The rest is history. So bit of a long adventure. I think I've always wanted to have a classic car, whether it be a split serene combi or a Beetle, or even just a Mini. So I eventually got what I wanted.
So before 2009, when you met this guy, your coworker here, did you know what minis were? Was it even on the radar, or did he kind of just pique your interest?
Yeah, I think everyone has seen Mr. Bean at one stage or another, and you always look back at the videos and you watch them and you think, man, there's only like what is it, like 9 or 10 episodes, and as a kid you just think like there's 100 episodes. So I always knew about minis. Never really watched the Italian Job, obviously, until the newer one came out, and then I'll backtrack and watch the original.
Right.
Knew what minis were. I'd just see them cruising around the streets occasionally. You wouldn't see them that often, but yeah, always knew about them. Never really knew too much of them.
Right. So then that's okay. So 2005, you were you
Hmm.
started. You're a mechanic then, right? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah,
Are you still
yeah.
currently a
So
mechanic
I'm
as
a
well?
yep, yeah. So nearly 2 decades in, I'm still a mechanic, still chipping away. I now work in the office as a service advisor, receptionist, manager. But
Right.
yeah, still tinker at home. Hence my channel. So.
Of course, of course. So when you were at that stage, were you into cars, or were you just kind of doing mechanic as a job? I mean, obviously you had to be somewhat into cars, but were you into tuner cars or the VWs that you were working on, or what was your kind of
Mhm.
your go-to car as a kid?
Yeah, so it wasn't really until we got to the age of puberty that we started getting into cars at school. I had a couple of mates, and this was the whole era of Fast and Furious. So,
Of
Paul
course,
Walker was a very, very big inspiration to me to
of
become a
course.
mechanic. Obviously, he just, did it on screen, and, he was a enthusiast and kind of lover outside of the movies. So he, really had a big part of my development as being a mechanic into that. So yeah, it was around the early 2000s that I got into cars. And I'm glad you asked because I actually have a tattoo on my arm and it says, "Dude, I had you," and that's his Supra.
No.
Let's see if I can get it there. Yeah. So yeah. So when he died, I got that tattooed, and then above that, that's my best mate, who passed away sadly,
Oh man, that's
the
awesome
year
though.
that I
That's a
met my
cool.
wife. So yeah, it was good. Like, to have the two things in my life, tattooed on me that I love. Paul Walker, and when he passed away, it was very hard for me. It took me a long time to grieve with that, and a lot of people
Yeah.
don't realize. And same with Kobe Bryant, like he was a big part of my life as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that very hard. But yeah, like 2001, like when Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious came out, I just thought, man, this is what I want to do. Like, if you can be, with a Gallo 24 and, driving down the road and your floor pan flies out, like, man, that's what I want to do. So it was the sex spec of cars, which I think did you guys have that era, the sex spec, where it was all like big
We
wheels, wide body kits.
Yeah, of course we did, and I don't know if
Mm,
we
mm,
called it sex spec, but I heard that on Mighty Car Mods when he bought a sex spec car. I was
yeah,
like, "What the sex spec? What the
yeah,
fuck is that?" But I mean, yeah,
yeah,
I definitely remember that era of cars, and
yeah,
everything you're
yeah.
saying hits home too because I was always into cars.
Mm,
My uncle's hugely into cars, mainly British Fords and Lotus and
hmm.
Cortinas and all that jazz. But yeah, I mean, growing up in Texas, my immediate family isn't really into cars, but I remember seeing Fast and the Furious. I was like, this is fucking awesome. And I just like all I wanted to do. I
Mm,
was like
yeah,
tuner, like, but yeah,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
And you would love it
But
out here. Like I was talking on a previous episode. I live really close to that scene, the super scene where he's like racing the
mhm.
Ferrari, and they pull into that
Yeah, right.
that restaurant on that's PCH. I live
Yeah,
right there. I can jump on PCH, and I'm 20 minutes away from that restaurant where they filmed that scene.
yeah.
So,
Wow.
and every once in a while when
Yeah,
I show up there on
that's
weekends, they
cool.
have all the Fast and the Furious cars out there just hanging. Super.
Mad.
Yeah,
That's
it's super
sick.
cool. Yeah, it's really cool. I fanboy every
That
time.
is
I mean,
mad.
it's like kind of corny, but
Yeah,
I love it. Like it's like that was my childhood
yeah.
for sure.
100%. But it's funny that they got so off track. They went from stealing
Yeah.
VCRs and TVs and engines to fucking runways the size of bloody half the planet and driving tanks and
Yeah.
ships and stuff. Like it's next
It,
level. But
it got a little off for sure, but
mm, yeah, just a little bit.
So did you ever end up with the R56 or 53 or anything like that, a newer Mini, or?
No. So that's one. There's a couple of regrets in life that I have, and probably buying a Mini of that age when I was, a 16-year-old apprentice was probably one of them. So after like my little encounter with like buying a new car, because like I said, I didn't know about finance. I didn't know that you could get a loan. I just thought like, here's the bottom line: you need to pay it. That's it. I didn't know loans and stuff. Like I was just literally that oblivious to it. So yeah, I just owned shitty cars in between, but yeah,
I get you. I understand.
couple of
When I was the same way. But I want to talk about your Mini. So this was 2009. You found it just on a whim on an ad, or what? How did you find it?
yeah. So funny enough, it was on eBay. I think it was he wanted $1,500 for it, which is not a lot of money, but the thing had that much rust, as all minis do, and I don't think I really realized how much rust there was in it until we got it back. Like we literally stripped everything out of that car, every nut, bolt, screw, and it was funny actually. In one of my videos, I talk about my mate Tom. So the day after we bought it, I took the day off. I was like, you know what? No, I'm just going to do this. We're going to pull this thing apart. So we started pulling everything out. We stripped the engine and all this. Anyway, the next day I said, mate, here is half a dozen ice cream containers. Put everything in boxes, label everything. We know where it's going. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Next day, go to work, come home. What do I find? One big fucking box with every bolt, nut, and screw. And I was like, what have you done? He goes, oh, I was just so excited. I was like, all right. And they literally remained in that box. I've still got the box of the original bolts. And anyone that's built a classic car, doesn't need to be a Mini, but anything, when you put something back together, if you didn't pull it apart, it's very hard to work out. But being a mechanic and being able to touch all those bits and pieces throughout my career and history, it made it somewhat easier, but there was still this is, a UNC bolt, this is a UNF bolt to reassemble this car. So, still to this day, I give them shit of, throwing me under the bus, and it took me forever to put it back together.
That's fantastic. Now, that car that your original Mini, is that the one that you have now, the Clubman?
Yep. Yeah, the 74 Clubman.
Oh, okay. So that, because I mean, scrolling back on your Tomo's Tune-Up Instagram, like it's already, nice and built at the beginning. So I didn't know that you did basically a ground-up restoration on it.
Yeah, I really need to talk about that because it was, from what it was to what it is now, it was very, very different. It was white originally. It had stripes down. It had brown interior, brown flooring, roof, like everything. So I just stripped it.
Yeah,
and just sat as a shell for years. Yeah, no, it was good. Like we pretty much touched everything on it. We did new sill panels, front floors, both. Inner and outer A panels, front quarters, bonnet, boot floor, rear beaver panel. Yeah, so pretty much like everything other than the roof was touched. So yeah, we literally just stripped this thing down. I got it sandblasted and we started cutting bits off it, and then I went, oh, I'm out of money and I'm now getting divorced, so it's going in the shed. So it's a pretty good story. And one of the days that I was actually reassembling it, because I wanted to get going for my wedding in 2018. There was the hottest day on record in Australia. Well, I think it was worldwide at the stage. It was like 52 degrees, and that's Celsius. So yeah, she was fucking hot, and I was out there putting my car together, and I was just dripping in sweat. My wife's like, "Come inside." I'm like, "Nah, I got to keep going. So I worked for like 8 hours in like undercover, thank goodness, and it was literally almost well over half the temperature inside than what it was outside. It was like 20 degrees inside, and it was like 52 outside. So yeah, it was like walking into an igloo. It was that cool inside. But yeah, working. I'm very persistent with the stuff that I do. I just kind of get that tunnel vision and keep going.
Yeah, I can tell. I was watching a bunch of your videos. Since we kind of scheduled this and just kind of looking at, and I really like the style of your videos, and you could tell they're getting better and better as you kind of go on too. But yeah, I really like how detailed they are. You know, sometimes people do videos of how-tos or whatever it is, and they kind of, you know, they gloss over some things, but really yours was pretty step by step, follow along, and easy peasy. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so when I was originally building my car, Cole from Classic Mini DIY, I would watch a lot of his videos.
Yeah.
And nothing against Cole. Sometimes I'd find I'd be reassembling something like a gearbox, for instance, and there'd be something very specific I needed to know how it went together. And I'd be watching it, and he'd be filming, and then the next scene would cut, and that bit was already together. And no matter how much research I did online, you know, even through my mechanical expertise, I guess, or even just looking through mini books, I could never find specific things. So it had always been in my mind to want to be able to create a YouTube channel. Being a mechanic, having apprentices over the years, being able to explain something to someone that doesn't make them sound dumb, but also, you know, you're not explaining something super complicated to someone, to find a happy medium where everyone can understand it, even talking to customers. I figured, well, you know what, I feel I'm really good at that, so why not let's just start up a channel and be able to do and expand on all those extra little bits and pieces that I've struggled to find over the years of, you know, building minis.
Yeah, I like that a lot. You know, I don't think it's anyone's fault, but that always happens, and it's every kind of job outside of maybe like a easy oil change or something like that. There's always something that like either whether it's the camera failed and they just missed that part, or they did it and they didn't film it, or they had to do it off camera, or whatever it is. Like, it's like I always find myself watching multiple videos and they're all good. It's just like you said, there might be something that's like, the camera angle is weird, I couldn't really see, or like they kind of glossed over it. Yeah, so I mean, I agree. I think that's, personally, I think there can't be enough. You know, like there's always something that you're going to learn from each different. I've watched all the videos of all the, you know, well, I can't say all, majority of them, all the ones that I know about. And like I've watched 1,000 gearbox videos. I watched all the, you know, I just watch them all. Like they're all interesting. I learned a different thing every single time. And now I feel like a lot of the projects I can go out into the garage and probably do 90% of it without even looking anything up. You know what I mean? So I like it a lot. I mean, it's definitely fun, and it's a way to kind of be a little creative, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a channel that people can watch and understand, and that's why I always ask people for feedback. You know, like yourself, or you know, people who come to me on Instagram. I want to know that what I'm doing is the right thing, and people understand it. You know, and I'm always open to constructive criticism. If you want to tell me, you know, the lighting was bad or that my audio was shit, then tell me. But don't just come out and say you're a dickhead, you shouldn't be doing this. Give me a reason behind it. And that's that's what I try to get across to people. You know, I want people to be able to confidently watch it and have the confidence to go, Tomo showed me how to do this, I'm going to now attack it, and then I can give my feedback. Or, you know, just give people an idea of how to do things. And not a lot of things on minis are hard. There are certain things that are difficult, I guess. But, you know, that's coming from a seasoned mechanic. So, you know, giving people confidence and, you know, courage to do it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think that's a lot of people ask me, like, where did you learn how to work on your car? And realistic, I mean, okay, I took auto tech in high school. What did I learn? Basic stuff, right? But realistically, it's probably YouTube and my Haynes manual.
Yeah.
And, you know, giving it a go. And, you know, like you said, majority of the stuff is very doable, very easy. It could be a little bit scary because it might be your gearbox or your engine, your pistons or whatever it is, something that's very expensive and valuable. But, you know, as long as you kind of follow the instructions, it's fairly easy. It's like a big Lego kit.
Yeah. And some of the old school OG mini books are really hard to understand and trying to work out like specific tolerances or how to do something. So doing that sort of thing and working closely with people online who, you know, I respect and admire, and I watch their videos to give me pointers on how to instruct people and how to do specific things, because we haven't always had the internet. You know, we go back 25, 30 years and people just had to use Haynes manuals. They had to drive 3 miles to go ask the local mechanic, how do I do this? And then drive back, and then you'd try to ring them, and then they didn't answer because they weren't home, and then you'd have to leave a message. And, we grew up in that era of experiencing that, but also experiencing now. So,
Right.
Some things you can't find, well, pretty much everything now you can find online. But, it just depends how it's explained, and whether you're a visual learner or whether you're, you can read something and then just know how to do it. So having kind of the best of both worlds, I think is, a really good contributor to that.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of how I approach it. If I'm about to tackle a job, I look on YouTube, watch a million videos on it. I go out to the garage with my Haynes manual. I go step by step. And then sometimes, like you said, the Haynes manual is like, what? That's like worded weird. Or like you said, it's like a tolerance. You got to like double check if you're measuring the proper portion or whatever it is. But man, you're doing a great job. Yep. And the other thing I like that you're doing too is sometimes also on the parts websites it gets a little confusing of like 3 different oil seals, right? Which one should you pick? I like how you kind of went over which one's which, and I like that kind of stuff. I feel like a lot of people don't do that. It's so that's a good little breath of fresh air there.
Yeah, so essentially that I partnered up with Minisport last year. So Minisport in Australia is the biggest importer and exporter of classic mini parts in the Southern Hemisphere. And it's been something I wanted to get on board with for quite some time. And, when you harass people enough, they just give in. Just kidding. So I had this in the works for quite some time, and part of my contract with them is that I'll produce videos for them. So how I got them over the line was I said, look, guys, there is a trillion different parts online. Even me as a seasoned mechanic goes online. I want to look at primary gear oil seals. How do I know which is exactly for what I need? And to save people going, oh, I'll just get the black one, or I'll just get this one, or I'll just buy this. It saves all that confusion. It saves people not knowing what they're looking for and how to buy the right part for their car. So yeah, literally I can, do every single part that they sell and talk about it and just give people that confidence knowing that, sweet, I'm going to be doing high performance circuit racing. I need this one. I'm just going to be driving it on a Sunday when it's nice and sunny. I'm just going to be using this one. I'm never going to be revving the ringer out of this thing. So that's one of the side ventures, of me doing my channel and working with Minisport is, producing that content once a week.
That's awesome. And you just kind of, I guess, announced that sponsorship a couple weeks ago, right? Or was it?
Yeah. So at the start of this year, I kicked off my season of when I went down to Adelaide last year. So Adelaide is 2 states south from where I live. So I went down there at the end of last year, got all the filming done. And their warehouse is like, your equivalent would be like Costco, but to us it's Bunnings. You walk in, there's just parts everywhere. There's just rows and rows and rows of just everything. A bit of a mini owner's wet dream, really. So yeah, I kicked it off this year with the sponsorship from Minisport. So yeah, really excited to have them on board with the channel.
Is the Minisport in Australia the same as like UK one, or is it a separate branch, or what?
I think it must be a franchise because we also have Minisport Oz, but then also Minisport. So they all sell very similar parts. Some stuff in the UK sells specific things, whereas other stuff is only available through our Minisport in Australia. So I think it must just be a franchise. That's from what I gather, because I know there's one in the States as well.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, there's a Minisport USA, which is basically just the USA site. And Mike Guido, who hopefully I'll have on the podcast soon, awesome dude. He runs it. He's out of Florida, so I'm not sure if he has a warehouse there, and he basically stocks a bunch of parts. But if it's not in stock, then it just ships from the UK. That's, at least from my knowledge, that's what it is. I could be completely wrong, so sorry, Mike, if I screwed that up, but I believe it's pretty much the same. Don't want to speak for him, but that's what I think it is.
Yeah, okay. It's funny sometimes you order parts from Minisport in South Australia, and if you order them generally before about 10, you see them the next day, around the same sort of time, which is cool. Other times we order stuff from the UK, and
Wow.
it's here within like 4 business days,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. But yeah, whereas sometimes you order other stuff and it takes 3 to 4 weeks, or order stuff from the
Yeah.
States and it takes 2.5 weeks. So
Yeah, oftentimes when I order from the big mini sites over in UK, it gets here like in a week or less, and it's insane. Every once in a while, if it's a big
mm,
order or if it's like a small order, like if it's a big order, it might get stuck in customs maybe, or if it's a small order and it's like going by Royal Mail and then it goes to USPS, it's like that might be slow, but generally they're really fast. It's
mm,
insane how fast they can get here.
yeah. It depends what you pay for as well, like whether it's like DHL or
Yeah,
International Express or whatever. So yeah, it really
exactly.
depends. But sometimes you get lucky and it's here within a couple of days. Other times, yeah, it takes a bit longer.
Yeah, definitely. Let's backtrack a little bit and talk about your mini. You were talking about you basically when you
Hmm.
got it, you stripped it down. How long did that process take? What like describe it? What for those that don't know what your Clubman looks like, what kind of special mods do you have done to it? Any unique features,
Hmm.
etc.
So anyone that's gone to paint a car, you think let's just paint it red. But then when you start looking at the colors red, you go, oh, there's cherry red, there's candy apple red, there's tartan red, there's red, there's Ferrari red. So that was like a big part of it. So she's tartan red. So it was an original mini color that came out when they were available. She has a white roof. So she's actually Toyota white. So Toyota Hilux white. She has Neg 3 10 by 6 wheels, ultralights, I think they are, or superlights, one of the two. Um, she has a 1100cc engine, bored 60 thou with a 1.5 inch SU, a 266 Graham Russell camshaft and flat top pistons, double row timing chain, all the real basic sort of mods. I converted it to an aluminium radiator simply because I was just, and anyone that knows my channel and if you've watched it enough, you would know that I hate those stupid shrouds that sit around the radiator on the classic mini radiator. So yeah, I got rid of that and hard mounted it to the car. It's got an electric fan as well as a manual driven fan, LED headlights, Cobra bucket seats, which was probably one of the biggest godsends I've ever had, especially after doing 800 Ks in it over 2 days last year on the Rolston Classic. Yeah, so once she was stripped, she was pulled apart for probably a good 7 or 8 years. So as I said, I just ran out of money. I was unable to finish it. I pretty much had all the parts there for it. And then as my wedding was coming up, I thought, you know what, I want to get this thing online. I want to get this thing ready to go and make it to my wedding. So I paid someone to paint it. And unfortunately, she didn't make my wedding day. My wife's never let me live that down. She ended up having a problem with a clutch. And we were standing at the aisle, and I remember her, and she's like, the first thing she says to me is, "Where's your Mini?" I'm like, "It's not here. It's on a tow truck." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I'll tell you later." So yeah,
Wow.
later after everything had finished, I like bawled my eyes out. I was like, "It was the only thing I wanted to be here, other than you." So yeah, So the next day, she said to me, and it was really nice. She was like, "Don't worry, you'll figure it out." And literally the next day, I just came home, pulled it apart, and just sat there and looked and went, "Ah, that's what it is. Bang, fix it." So I forget what it
Oh
was,
no.
but yeah, she never lets me live it down. That whenever I go, she's like, "Do you have enough fuel? And are you going to make it?" So now I carry like a spare part of everything. I could literally do a head gasket in my car on the side of the road. So yeah, she sat there for a long time, and then eventually, when it got painted, I had to pull the engine in and out a couple of times. We changed the tunnel, so instead of being the half moon, we converted it to like a square shape. It's a bit more modern. So I had to mount the engine and gearbox, and then the selector, figure out where we're going to mount it, drill the holes, pull it the engine back out, paint it, put it back in. Yeah, it's just a real long drawn out process, and you don't realize, I think, until you build a car, how much actually goes into it. When you
Yeah.
touch every single nut, bolt, screw, everything, you have a real appreciation of knowing that everything in this car you've touched. So yeah, sitting for a couple of long-term years. It was at my in-laws' place, so I lived with my wife for a bit before we moved out and got married. So I was sat out the back of their place for a long time. And yeah, I really need to upload some old photos because yeah, there's some really good classics there of, the whole roof was just covered in filler at one stage, and it took me forever to sand it because I had like the world's smallest air compressor. So I would like kick in, you'd start sanding, and then it would stop, and you have to wait, and you'd go and stop, wait, keep going. So yeah,
Terrible.
she's fun.
Yeah.
She was fun to build, but like now, I think the only thing that I probably regret doing with it was I pushed so hard to get it on the road. She's not 100% complete. So if you've watched any of my videos, I don't have door cards, I don't have a roof liner. There's bits and pieces that I just need to finish off, which I really need to get onto, but it is what it is.
Hey, listen, I spoke about this before. I think actually with Rohan, who I believe you know, you got it on the road, you're enjoying it, and that's what matters. Mine does have door cards, but there's no headliner. The carpet's like kind of just thrown in there, so every once in a while it falls. Although I velcroed the little kind of the wheel well area, so it kept falling on my clutch pedal as I was driving in the canyon. So I was like, that's probably dangerous. Maybe I should velcro that up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's about like getting it out and driving. Yeah, I went the other approach. Like I was going to strip it all and do it, and I was like, no, I want to drive this, and I want to drive it now. So I did, anything that I needed to replace, and then I've just fixed and upgraded as I've gone. So pretty much everything has been touched at this point, but other than paint, obviously.
Yeah, nice.
But,
It's expensive, and like, you spend, 10, 15, 20 grand on paint, and then you still have to build the engine. You still have to do all the interior. You have to do all the brakes. And when you look at it as a whole, like looking back now, I reckon I've probably spent at least 25 grand on my car. But that's been since 2009. So, anyone that wants to build a car, you just tackle one thing at a time. That's probably my piece of advice to someone. Because, yeah, looking at, a 30 grand build and you're only having 5 grand to start off with, it's important to kind of tailor it, I think, as to what you want to do. And the end result, and then just work towards it. Otherwise, it's very easy to go, throw money here, throw money there, and you run out of money very quickly. Yeah. When you start doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I think my advice now, looking back on it, even though I have 2 shitbox projects, would be try to get the best one that you could possibly find. Because if you get one that has good paint and then just needs some TLC to the engine or whatever, then you're kind of golden there, because you could do a lot of that yourself. But paint's a tough one, because you could do it. I know a lot of guys have done it in their garage, and it turns out fantastic. But that's I don't know. I don't mind it, but I also hate it at the same time. So it's like, if I could go back, my next Mini, for sure, I'm going to try to find the best example I possibly can, and just want to drive it and make my own like touch on it, right? Because like the process of buying one that's completely stripped and rusted is just, it's rough. I look at my S every day. I'm like, oh man, I just want to drive this thing, but it's a shell sitting on dollies,
Yeah. And it's the time, the effort, the money, the patience you put into it. But yeah, if you got one that is drivable and it needs work, I think it's probably better just to do those pieces individually and set a plan moving forward as to how you want to get it to where you want it to be, rather than just do what I did and pull everything apart. Because then at least you can enjoy it. You can drive it. If it's registered and you can keep registering it, perfect. Then just work on the bits and pieces in between when you got the funds to do it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's obviously fun to start from the ground up, but sometimes at this point in my car career, if you want to, whatever you want to call it, is just like I'm like, it's overwhelming. I'll say that. I want to just drive, and I'm like, you're always in a project when you're kind of playing back. You're like playing catch up, I guess, if you can say that. But
100%.
It's always fun. It's fun, no matter what. I'm turning into the guy that I'm always wanting to just tinker on things, but I also like driving, and it's like a love-hate,
Well, that's the thing about mine. When they asked me when I got it painted, they said, do you want to, spend 50 grand and win every show you go to, or do you just want to drive this thing? I thought, oh no, just have it so I can enter it in a show. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm happy to drive it, but I'm glad that It's on conditional plates at the moment, so I'll explain what that is in a second. So I knew that when I first had it on the road, I drove it at least 3 to 4 days a week, and I was driving it probably in the driver's seat probably about an hour and a half every day. And when it's hot, you're hot. When you're cold, you get wet and you're cold. So there's no like in between. There's not like, oh, it's a sunny day, I just want to turn the air conditioner on. You can't do that. So I got to the point where I was like, not only am I spending almost $1,000 in registration every year, but I'm starting to hate this car because I'm driving it so much. I need to start limiting when I drive it and have something else. So in Australia, they have something called historic plates and they have conditional plates. So historic is anything over 30 years old. You can get them on historic. They're these little number plates that you get, and you can drive it up to 60 times a year. You pay less in insurance, less in rego. It's literally like $200 a year compared to 800 or 900. So there's a big benefit for it. And you do have a little log. So there's so once it gets to 30 years, you then get an inspection. So what they call in the UK an MOT. So we do a rego inspection or a blue slip. They go over the entire car, check to make sure it's roadworthy, and then you register it. Once it's registered, you then have a book that you have to fill out. So every time you drive it, so if you drive it 6 times in one day, you fill out one line of who you are, what your license number is, and you sign it. And then if you ever get pulled over, you have to present that book to show them that your book's filled out. If you don't, then yeah, the fines are just astronomical.
So it's just like an honor system.
But,
like, oh, I only drove it 60 times this year.
Yep. Yeah,
Interesting.
60.
Yeah, exactly. I guess
so
that's
conditional
kind of what mine's
plates.
supposed to be, yeah, because I'm on historic plates, and I think I'm technically only supposed to drive a certain
sweet.
amount, but I don't know. It's not. It's not like 60
Unless-
times a year. It's like mileage, I think, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. But like no one checks that, and you know, even police that I've spoken to, unless they know the system and how it works, they're not going to pull you over. Like if you're being a hoon and being an idiot and you know speeding,
Right.
trying to race people, then they'll probably pull you over. So conditional plates are one up from historic. Conditional means that, well, for historic cars anyway, if it's a modified classic car. So I had to turn to conditional when I changed my seats and when I changed my wheels. Essentially, it's $50 more a year, and you get these big green ugly plates, which kind of bums because it green on white on a red and white car doesn't look too good with the number plates.
Right.
But it is what it is. So yeah.
So what are the? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm looking back at your plates now. What's the white? The white.
Yeah, so it's
with
like green. Yeah, so that's the conditional, and then if you look back earlier, there
yeah,
would
it
be
says
purple and white, and it's a physically smaller plate as well.
Oh yeah, there it says conditional. I see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so it'd
on
be
your-
some of
on
the
your
OG
retro, yeah.
early stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, nice. All right, I see. That's cool.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's the?
Except they
what's...
look hideous, but
It would look good on my car,
yeah,
but that looks like British Racing Green.
yeah, pretty much.
What's like the classic mini community like in your area? I know in other parts it might not be popular, but you're in Sydney area, or what'd you say it was?
Yeah, so Western Sydney. So
Western
I live
Sydney.
near a place. It's called Penrith. So we're at the base of the Blue Mountains. Quickly off topic, they call it the Blue Mountains because of the eucalyptus that's in the eucalyptus trees. As it comes out from a distance, it looks blue, hence the term the Blue Mountains.
Right.
So I'm part of a group called the Sydney Minis, and we meet up once a month at a pub. We all go have a feed, a couple of beers, and then we just go for a drive. So that scene is pretty good. It ranges anywhere from probably half a dozen to, maybe 15, 16 minis at a time, maybe even more, depending what time of year you go. So it is quite large depending when you go or what time of year. But yeah, there's at least a meet once a month. And it's not just, the mini clubs that meet up. It's obviously other clubs as well. And they could be mini owners in there, or you could be part of an old Jaguar club and there might be a couple of minis in there. But it's not huge, not like it is in the UK. We don't get thousands of minis turn up at a run. But yeah, decently sized.
Nice. Is there a lot of like here I feel like it's getting popular, or at least I'm getting more into the scene. Is there like classic mini rallies or classic car rallies where they're kind of just bombing around Australia, hitting different roads. I don't know if you have canyon roads, but like twisties and stuff like that. Do you guys do any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so there's something called the Rolston Classic, which is held once a year and is actually sponsored by Minisport as well. So essentially, we start off either in Newcastle, in New South Wales, or we start at Mingara, which is on Central Coast. So we start there, we all collaborate, and then we head out west to Rolston, which is so as I said earlier, like I did 800 Ks in the Rolston Classic last year. So we drove from Western Sydney all the way to the Central Coast, and then we drove all the way out to Rolston. So that's out near Bathurst, racing capital, I guess. And then you camp there overnight, or you stay in a hotel, and then the following day you then head out to Bathurst, do a couple of hot laps, and then come on back. There's actually a video on my channel of us doing it. But yeah, that's probably the biggest mini rally that they do every year, and people travel from all over the country, interstate even, to do it. And that's funny enough how I met Rowan when he had him on Self Frustration Society. Essentially, he was putting up on his social media that he'd broken down about 4 hours from where I live. And he was closer to me than he was at home. And I hit him up and said, man, you get to my place, I can get your head gasket. We can do it overnight. We'll pull an all-nighter and then we'll do this thing together. Anyway, so we really tried, but unfortunately he didn't make it. And then the morning of, he actually rang me and was like, man, I've got this accommodation. If you want it, you can have it. So, yeah, I bought it off him. He just gave it to me for pretty much nothing. And, yeah, we've been mates ever since. So he was unfortunately unable to make it on that rally, but yeah, it is a hell of an experience, and anyone in Australia or coming here to do it, it's not just minis. There's everything there. There's new cars, there's old cars, there's everything. And I think last year we had about 170. So yeah, all these classic cars just fanging around through twisty roads, I guess you call it. It's just a hell of an experience.
They're so much fun. I mean, I went on my first one this year with the Mini, and I drove up. I think it was about 3,000 miles. So yeah, round trip. It was
Jesus.
Crazy experience.
Wow.
It took it was like a week or longer. I went up to Idaho through the mountains with all these classic cars, and then on the way back home, I went back down the coast and met from friends and family and stuff like that. But man, the roads. And just the experience in the classic car across the country, like in the middle of nowhere, I was by myself too. It was like I broke down a couple times, but nothing serious. It was like clean a ground down. But man, it's an experience. They're so much fun, especially like I'm assuming it was like the same kind of thing like with you and Rohan. It didn't work out, but. Everyone's there to help. Everyone has different set of skills or different tool that you might need or a part that you might like. I've showed up and this guy cut a piece of his vacuum hose off for my car. You know what I mean? Like it was just cool stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah, and that's what it's about. It's about helping each other. And funny enough, like we broke down, which you can see in the documented series of when one of the high-lows actually got seized, and it wasn't until I pulled it out that I tried to free it up and it snapped, so I'm glad it didn't snap on the run. But yeah, heaps of people stopped, and we have like a community chat where you'd put something in there. Hey guys, I need a new ignition coil. Does anyone have any spare leads? My fuel pump stopped. Has anyone got a bit of wire that I can bridge it? And that sort of thing. And it's really good to see everyone coming together, with their classic cars. I think it's just a next level sort of thing that unless you own one, you don't really understand what it's like to own one, and the troubles that come with it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And it's some days it's like you want to set it on fire, and some days it's just it's always a fun experience in the end. Like right now I'm frustrated. I got my gearbox apart, this and that, but I know it's going to go back together. I know I'm going to go be driving it and have the biggest smile on my face. It is what it is, and that's just the territory that comes with an old car.
Correct.
Let's 100%. Jump back. I want to round back before we kind of get into the Paddy probe and a few other questions I had for you. I want to talk about your YouTube channel a little bit more. What really inspired you to start it? When did you start it? And anything big coming up for it? Like, what's the route that you kind of want to go? How long have you been doing it and all that kind of jazz?
So like I said before, I've always had that inkling to want to help people and give advice. So how it came about was during our last COVID lockdown, which was in 2020. So 3 years ago, we couldn't get outside the house, and if you did, you could be outside for an hour exercising. You could only go to the shops, to get the essentials. You couldn't drive anywhere. Literally more than 5Ks from home. That's kilometers. Anything more than that, you needed a permit for. So if you were driving from Western Sydney all the way through to Bondi Beach, which is like good hour and 20, if you got caught without a permit, you'd get fined heavily. So I figured, well, now's probably the time to start. And I think like my first video, like I was just sitting on the floor in my garage with no shoes on, and I think I was doing like a rear camber toe adjustment bracket for the Mini, which was really cool bit of gear to install. So I started doing that. And yeah, so I've been doing it now for coming up on 3 years. I think it was April that I started. So I'm now in my third season. So essentially Tomo's Tune-Ups is all things DIY and mechanical. So I focus on things like, DIY videos, how-to videos, as well as like product, talks, as I was saying before, from Minisport. And not so much reviews, but just, help people decide like what parts that they need for their car when they're trying to purchase things online, give a bit more clarity. In regards to the things that I've got coming up, I reckon I've probably got almost this entire year sorted already. So the further I go, the more people inquire with me about getting things done. So it could just be an engine rebuild, it could be a brake upgrade. So a lot of my traffic is coming from customers that I'm meeting through the Mini scene.
Oh, awesome!
We've got a couple of builds coming up this year. Yeah, it's really mad to to get people message me on Instagram or even contact me through YouTube, asking particular things. So at the moment, I'm not going to give too much away. There is 2 Morris vehicles in my garage, and that's probably enough said. Some stuff that I've never dealt with before, but something that's really cool. I've got some more builds coming up. I've got a 1275 engine that I've finished building, which is then going to turn into a full vehicle build, which is really mad. I guess just keep chugging along and just keep helping people do things to their classic Minis and have the confidence to be able to do it, but also offer that niche service, of being able to rebuild someone's engine or give that specialist advice with things. Because as I said, like there's not everyone out there that can just, strip down an engine and know all the itty gritty pieces to be able to rebuild it correctly and safely. Right. So yeah, just keep chugging along, and maybe one day I'll be up there with Mighty Car Mods, but we'll see how we go.
There you go. I reached out to them. I don't think they're gonna respond, but I'm gonna keep emailing. I want Moog on.
Yeah.
I want to talk.
Yeah, sick. Well, I've actually been hit up. Well, I've actually been hit up before. One of my guys, one of my followers, on YouTube actually said I should try and do a collab with him one day on his Mini or my Mini. So they're pretty common guys to be able to see kind of hanging around.
Okay.
They do live around, like, not so much where I live, but it's not far to travel to hopefully be able to see them. So hopefully if I run into him at another meet or something, I might actually hit him up, because I think it'd be really cool for the channel to kind of collaborate, and then I can put in a good word for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they just seem like awesome, cool dudes, like genuinely cool. I like, man, I've been watching their stuff forever, and it's just, I love their stuff. They're just seem like cool dudes, It's like us chatting right now. I feel like they'd just be fun to hang out with, and man, he's a Mini guy, so about your YouTube. Go for it.
Sorry. The thing about them is that, like, they're not mechanics. They just do it for fun. And that's, I think, probably the next sort of level. Like, I kind of feel, because I'm a mechanic and I'm teaching you what I know, they're teaching things that they know, but like on a different level. So a lot of people can probably they feel like they're on the same sort of wavelength as them, and in the same boat that they're not professionals, but they're happy to give it something a go, like be that DIY guy, mechanic in their own driveway and attempt things, which is cool.
Well, that was something that I liked about your YouTube, though. You could clearly tell you have a vast knowledge of it, but you weren't talking like a mechanic. Like the one I watched the other day too was the rear wheel bearing, and just like the little trick that you did with the adjustable wrench and how you kind of like did that. Like that to me, I was like, oh, like this is like, that's like some sort of like old school knowledge that's been passed down to, you know what I mean? Like, because for somebody like me, who a DIY guy would be like, what is the torque spec? You know what I mean? Like, that's
and
cool.
That sort of thing you just have to, learn over the years. There's, you not only use your hands, but your hands are your eyes sometimes. Sometimes you're doing things and you just have to have the feel for things, and you can't teach that. You just have to be able to do it. In saying that, though, I kind of feel like I was born probably 30 years too late in life. I feel like I should have grown up around this sort of stuff, and that's why my car is still on, points ignition and running a carburetor and not, electronic and EFI and all this stuff, because I enjoy tinkering that stuff. I can fix it on the side of the road. Whereas if, my Toyota Hilux breaks down and there's an electrical problem, I'm pretty much stuck. I can't do anything. I just have to get it towed. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Tomo, what other projects you got? I love saying that, by the way. Is that your nickname? Or is that what it is?
Yes. So it's funny you ask, because like people think my name's Tom or it's actually Tomo. So my name is actually Christopher Thomason. Right. So everyone calls me Tomo because of my surname. So there was two Chris's that we used to work with, and the way that they identified us was Chris and Tomo. So I adapted the nickname Tomo. And you're the first person to actually ask me that. So yeah. It's funny. Sometimes it's like, oh, great video, Tom. And I'm like, that's not my name. Huh?
Yeah, because I figured it was a nickname. And then when I saw your email, it had your full name. I was like, okay, that's probably what it's from, but it's fun.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. But I haven't really disclosed it. I should probably do it. So hopefully a lot of people watching or listening will, be able to put the two and two together and have a bit of a laugh about it. Projects, are we talking like mini projects, or are we talking like outside of mini?
Yeah, anything outside of mini that you might be tinkering on that's maybe not secret of a part of your channel or something. Yeah,
so the company that I work for, we specialize in four drives, and I'd never owned a four drive until last year. I bought a Toyota Hilux, an N70, 2006. So it was like the first run of that model. I've put a 2-inch lift kit in it. I've got work lights. I've actually got a set of rock lights, so lights to light up where you're driving during the night, trying to navigate the rocks. But I've actually got them underneath my wheel arches. So the reason for that is not just to be able to see what I'm doing, when I'm driving at night, but if I need to work on my car at night, I literally just turn the switch on and it lights up the whole wheel arch, which is really cool. So if you need to do brakes or a CV joint or something, you can do it there.
That's pretty cool.
So I try and get out now as much as I can with my son and with my wife when she's not working, and just go camping. There's a lot of places, within a 2-hour sort of radius of where we are, where you don't need to go and spend a lot of money to be able to go full driving or to be able to go camping, in local free camping spots. So that's probably my biggest project, I think, other than just working on Grace, my Mini. But I'm always in the shed. Like, I just have this obsession, I think, and my wife always says, just take a break, and I'm always tinkering with something. I'm always fiddling with a mower. I'm always servicing a car. I'm always, pulling something apart. Of something or other. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it be car related or, my son's electric car that he drives around in, I need to, fix the batteries on that or something. Right. So, yeah. But, yeah, pretty much the majority of it is just mini. But, yeah, when I'm not miniing, it's funny because I drive two different cars of two very different statures. One is humongous, and then the other one is this little clown car. So
it's a good juxtaposition there,
yeah. Yeah.
That's fun.
I want to get a photo of them like side by side and just show the clear difference, because you don't realize like how big some cars are, but then also you don't realize how small some cars are. in comparison to each other until they're side by side. So
yeah, no, any chance I
it'd be
get
cool
to
photo, I reckon.
park next to a giant truck, it's hilarious. It's kind of scary, man. Actually, how big even like the regular just sedans are compared to a minis now. It's pretty crazy.
100%, yeah. And you know, I always have this thing whenever I see another mini driving. If it's a newer mini, I just yell out, "Get a real mini!" And I said that to a lady once, and she's like, "I do drive a real mini," and I was like, "Oh, you don't?" But yeah, she was pretty cool about it. But you got to be careful because sometimes people in the UK, I've heard like they're chalk and cheese that if you drive a classic mini, you know, you won't talk to people with a new mini, and there's actual like fights over it and stuff. So, but you know, a lot of people take it pretty well. I just go, "Oh, okay, well, this is my real mini," and you show them a photo, and they go, "Oh, that's cute." And you're like, "Oh, I don't use the term cute with mini, so please don't say that again."
every time. Yeah, in the United States, people, I'll be talking, they're like, "Oh, you know, whatever, a classic mini will come up," and like, "Oh, I drive a mini too." I was like, "Really?" And then they show me, and I was like, "Oh," they're like, "Yeah, I have a convertible one." I was like, "Dude, you got like a 2010 mini, don't you?" Like, "Yeah, how'd you know?"
Like, wow, don't talk to me.
Yeah, like we're not friends.
They're very different though. Like they still have the traits, but yeah, they're not mini per se. They're huge. Like
Let's
just
be real,
ridiculously big.
My daily drivers, I've only owned new minis, so I'm not bashing them. They're actually great cars. At this point, I know
100%.
exactly which one to get. Like, there's certain years that sucked, but yeah, no, they're fun. They're cool. It's a great little quirky car for daily driving and kind of just hanging around. But yeah, there's no comparison to the classic mini in terms of fun. So.
Yeah, and size. Yeah,
and size too. They're quite bloated nowadays. Tomo,
100%.
Patty probe time. You ready?
Far away.
Alrighty. For those that might just be listening to this for the first time, Patty probe is a set of questions. We can rapid fire them. Oftentimes we elaborate because we're chatty Cathys. But starting off, what is your favorite mini variant?
I've been thinking about this one quite a lot lately, and it's going to be my next mini. So my mini now I'm going to give to my son when he turns 16, when he gets his L's. I want to get a Clubman van. I think they're really cool. So yeah. Definitely Clubman van or estate, whatever terminology you want to use. But yeah, I think they're just really cool. Like this little mini panel van kind of reminds me of like the old Sandman, which is an Aussie car. If I was to get one, I'd certainly make it into like a surfer sort of van, have a big surfboard on top, maybe some like handwritten writing down the sides, the good barn doors at the back. Like, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely cool. would be my favorite.
Yeah, vans are definitely up there. They're cool. What do you love most about owning a classic mini?
I think, and I'm sure anyone out there who owns a classic car would agree that it's to do with the joy that you bring people. You know, you can rock up to a servo and be filling up with fuel, and someone come up and go, "Great car, mate," and then just run off. Or they come up to you when you've just bought your groceries and they're like, "What year model is it?" And then you get talking about it, and there's always someone you speak to who's either owned a Mini or has known someone who's owned a Mini, and they always come up and they share those stories with you, having those you know, enlightened moments where people just come up and they just talk to you out of the blue, like they just know you, and they go, "Oh, great car, mate, see ya," and then they just leg it. But also, like, one of the, sorry if you don't understand my slang. So one of the, yeah, okay. So leg it, like they just run. So there was this really cool moment that I had.
All of this later.
So there was a moment that I had when I was driving home from work one day. I was just cruising along, and it was just after I got my car on the road. I was just enjoying it. Everything was all good. And I was just driving, and you know when you get that feeling of just someone looking at you? And I was like, look over, and there's this old couple beside me. They must have been in like their 70s. And the lady's like pushing the guy out of the way. She was in the passenger seat, pushing him out of the way, going, look at that. And they're waving. and this and that. So I waved back, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to give this a bit of willy. So I just knocked it back to third and just right-footed it and just took off, expecting this thing to take off and, just moved away from them. But just the smile on their faces, like, it was just like, wow, like, to see this classic car just cruising down the road. People just come up to you at a set of lights, and just give you a thumbs up. I think that's probably the best thing about owning a Mini is just, bringing joy to people who's either owned a Mini before or just love seeing them because it's so quirky and you don't see those cars getting around.
I love that answer. I clearly got a Mini because I wanted a Mini. I just wanted that. That's just been my dream car. But ever since owning it, it's not that I want the attention, but it's just so much fun, man. Like you said, you pull up to a gas station, someone's talking to you. It's just like it's the community that it just creates, even if the person's not even a car person. They love it. It's like rarely do you ever take a drive where somebody doesn't like honk at you, wave at you, film you as you're driving by. You see it all the time. It just cracks me up. It puts a smile on everyone's face.
100%. And not too long ago, I'll just quickly get off topic for a second here. My Oma, which her name was Grace, and that's who I named my car after. She passed away, and as we went to go to her funeral, I was driving my classic Mini. And I was like, I just need something to just brighten up the mood a little bit. So when I'm driving there, I'm not just feeling down and depressed and thinking about things I want to say. Driving down the freeway and this truck is just coming up behind me, just like real slow, overtaking me. I did the old wind the window down and did these ones. And he just bop, bop, just hits the horn. I was like, man, that's so good. My wife's behind me. She gets out like when we got there. And she's like, you're an idiot. Why would you do that? I said, because this little Mini, just cruise along and I'm honking this guy to get the horn going. It just, made my day. And, just having a good laugh as well. Like when you're driving it, making people smile is, a part of, I think, the journey of owning something so ironic and beautiful.
I agree. That's awesome. Yeah. I like that answer. Let's see here. What is your favorite Mini modification? Either one that you've done or one that you might want to do.
I'm really looking forward to doing a straight cut gearbox conversion. Yeah. My mate Paul Jeffries in the UK, Classic Mini Garage. He has a set he's going to sell me, so I'm really looking forward to that. And the fact that I only drive it every now and again probably is going to make up for the fact of it being so annoying. Yep. But probably the best mod that I've done, I reckon, is probably the Cobra bucket seats, because the original coffin style high back seats they were nice, but they were like just uncomfortable because the foam had given way. Once I'd done the Cobra bucket seats, and then not long after we did the Rolston Classic, having spent 800 Ks in the car, it was, the best. It was comfortable. It was, they hold you really nice. They're not super snug, and I'm not an overly big guy as well. It's just good driving position, comfy. They look the part. I think that's probably my favorite Mini mod.
I agree. I don't have they might be old ones. They're beat, but they're very similar style, and they are really comfy. Mine need to be re-cushioned and everything, but still, even though like how beat they are, they're really comfy. They fit me nice. The seating position is really great, so I like that answer too. Yeah. 10-inch.
One thing that
add on, go.
Sorry, I'll quickly add this. So when I bought the Cobra bucket seats, anyone who is looking into it, you need to buy the brackets to suit the seats. Because I bought the seats, and I was like, yeah, sweet, I'll just throw them in, I'll just unbolt the old rails, and away we go. Turns out you need the rails to make them work. So that was probably something that I didn't know at the time. So these $1,000 seats now turned into $1,500 seats because of the extra brackets. So
yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that in there because
No, that's a good. I feel like one of my friends did the same thing, and it was like, oh, you can't switch over the brackets or whatever it was. But yeah, the ones that I have they look like they're like homemade. It's like the actual like the little like prong that comes off the front that bolts into the cross member there. And it's like all welded janky and stuff. So.
Yeah,
I
wow.
don't know if someone just cut it and redid it, but oh
Mm,
man, yeah,
yep.
funny.
Hmm.
10 inch, 12 inch, or 13 inch.
Okay, so um, in the four-wheel drive industry, people ask us what size rims they should go. When you do like a 16-inch compared to an 18-inch, we find that a 16-inch gives a really good rim to tire ratio, whereas like a 20-inch, you have a really low tire to rim ratio. So same with minis. I found I originally had a set of 12-inch. Sorry, I give very long-winded answers.
There's no
I
rules in the
originally had
Paddy
12
Probe.
inch. I originally had 12-inch wheels. I think they were like 145 70 12, and they were really cool. They were whites. They were little mini lights, but they were like 12 by 4.5. So they were like little cheese sticks right on the road, and I could actually feel myself when I threw it around a corner. So most people slow down for roundabouts, as you do only a mini. You actually speed up to get through the roundabout to show off. So I'd find that like I could feel the car like moving with the flexion of the tires on the rims. So I was like, yeah, get rid of them. So I went back to 10 inch, and the amount of profile I have, so I think it's a 165 70 10. For me, it gives a good stance on the 6-inch rim.
Hmm.
Sorry, 10 by 6-inch rim.
Yep.
But also, you can throw it into a corner and you don't get that sort of body roll of the tire on the rim. So yeah, definitely 10 inch.
Yeah. No, I've never driven 12. I feel like 12 is
Mm,
a good happy medium, but I've driven on 13 and then I went to 10. Night and day
yep.
difference on handling and ride and
Yep.
everything. At
Mm,
least in my experience.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it goes
Um,
like anything. Like I said with four drives, if you want like a really good, comfortable ride, like 16-inch is really good. But then, like if you go 10-inch on a mini, you're going to get more tire, so you're going to get a better cushion. So it really just depends on the style of setup you have and what you're using it for. So doing things like modifications to adjustable high lows, that sort of thing, adjustable shock absorbers, that's really going to benefit the drivability, quality, and style of the overall ride, not just the tires. But yeah, you're right. Having 13s is going to be chalk and cheese between 10-inch in regards to drivability, and then you get issues like scrubbing and trying to find a 10-inch tire somewhere compared to a 13. You might pay more for one or the other. So I guess it really just depends on what your preference is and how you're using it.
yeah. Yeah. Good answer. Good answer. Last one here. If you could have a drink, beer, coffee, tea, pint, whatever your drink of choice is, with one mini celeb, who would it be?
A whiskey with Michael Caine.
Look at that. I like that answer.
Straight. Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it. I was watching a couple of the videos you've done in the past, and I was going to say Rowan Atkinson, like Rowan.
Yeah.
I love Mr. Bean. But OG, I think Michael Caine would be, definitely a really good person to just share that drink with and talk about the Italian job, but someone who's British and knows these cars really well.
Right. No, that's cool. I love this is one of my favorite questions because everyone's had a really awesome answer, and I feel like when I
Mm.
think it's like obviously Patty Hopkirk or like many people kind of pop up, but like some of these answers are great answers. It's like, all right, Michael Caine, that's a fantastic answer. Like you just said, British. He was in the Italian job. Does he have any stories about minis? I'm sure he does. That's I like that answer. That's very
Mm.
cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Tomo, tell the people where they can find you. We've obviously dropped your YouTube, but tell them exactly where: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, any websites, anything like that.
Yes, so I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Um, Mainly, I do a lot of my stuff on Instagram, so just at Tomo's Tune-Ups, all one word, TOMOSTUNEUPS. Same with Instagram, sorry, same with YouTube. And I just have a small Facebook group as well that I run, where I pretty much just upload all my weekly episodes that I do. I generally drop 2 videos a week. One is mini sport related, so going back to what we were saying before about parts and descriptions, helping people choose the right parts of the vehicle. And then later in the week, I do another series episode. So whether it be rebuilding something or whether it be going for a drive, just general sort of, mini related stuff. Those are the 3 places you can find me.
Awesome. I'll link it in the description as well for everybody. So, hey, man, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you for being on, and I will catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks for having me.